Story 1. Two come to mind, pfSense and FreeNAS. Both are heavily used at my house. pfSense is a free open-source firewall and router that is feature-complete to the level of competing with almost all small and medium business commercial firewalls. It is also extremely reliable. FreeNAS is a software network-attached storage operating system. It quickly transforms any spare old computer with a few drives and a network interface into a centralized file server with support for almost everything under the sun. From Apple Time Machine backups to enterprise internet small computer systems interface setups that allow diskless booting of machines on the local network. Story 2. As a digital painter, Krita is probably the best art software you're going to get for free, as long as you add the brush packs. Some of the stuff I've managed to create and the amount of adapting you can do to the main window is incredible. Edit. I didn't think a comment like this would receive such appreciation. Thank you so much, everyone. Story 3 Studio is a wonderful Lego modeling program. It's great for recapturing that feeling of building with bricks, and you don't have to worry about running out of a certain color or stepping on a one-by-one piece. Apparently, it also has an option to work on a project with your friends, but I haven't tried it out. Story 4. Blender. For as much criticism as the software gets, it is a workhorse for those of us willing to put in the time to learn it. It does tons of stuff from modeling to animation to video compositing. It regularly gets updates and the technology behind it is only getting better. Could it be better? Sure, absolutely. But for something that is free, it's amazing. Story 5. WinDirStat is great for making pretty tile pictures of what is on your hard drive and finding the forgotten folders that are taking up a ton of space. Story 6. It's an online graphing calculator, and it's so much better than the Texas Instruments TI-84 I had to spend $120 on. It graphs all kinds of equations. For example, you don't have to isolate y. You can graph complete inverses, and constant placeholders exist too. Story 7. VLC has played every video file in every format I've given it with no problems. Also, all the video game emulators. It's amazing how you can have a fully working console on your computer with almost any game from that console for free. Story 8. OpenSCAD create 3D models with a scripting language. If you have a three-dimensional printer and you want to print some exotic shapes, or if you're creating parts that might need a parameter tweak here and there each run, it's fantastic. Story 9. I just started learning it a few weeks ago, and I've already switched over to it for doing all my assignments. The documents are so much more beautiful and well-formatted than Google Documents or Microsoft Word, and it handles equations and mathematics much better than either, which is good for me since I'm in engineering with lots of math. I would highly encourage anyone who is studying mathematics, science, or engineering to learn and start using LaTeX. Story 10. Audacity. Audio editing software. Your FanView. Great for basic editing of images. This is my default image viewer. And then there's ones a lot of people know about like VLC Media Player, Winamp, IMGBurn, WinRAR 7-Zip, CPU-Z, and BleachBit. Edit. Oof, my inbox this morning. Story 11. Space Engine is free for now. I would say a program that simulates the known universe and beyond for free on your computer is a good deal. Story 12. I have been using that as my password manager since 2008. It's updated regularly, has two versions, one for the .NET framework and the other not. Is entirely portable on Windows at least, and works on a few operating systems besides Windows. It has plugins if you need any functionality the base version doesn't have. It has changed the way I store passwords, addresses, and URLs for everything. There's a learning curve, but I have fallen in love with never having to remember a password. Story 13. Recover. It restores deleted files as long as the memory hasn't been written over. Some days ago, I was going through clips I recorded on my camera, and by accident erased the clip I needed. Scanned the SD card on Recover. Bam. Got it back from video hell. Thanks, Recover, for forgiving my carelessness. Works on hard disk drives too. Story 14. Not technically a software, but archive.org. It has millions of free downloads for music, movies, books, software, etc. One very popular example is that it is home to a very large catalog of Grateful Dead recordings. It also has the Internet Arcade where you can play a lot of classic games along with the console living room, which is similar. They have access to tons of old PC games too, and you can even play the original Oregon Trail online. It also has the Wayback Machine, which has archived more than 310 billion web pages saved over time, so you can go back and see how websites were years ago. For example, here's Reddit on July 25th, 2005, a month after it was created. The fact that you have access to all these amazing resources for free is pretty awesome. Story 15. YouTube DL is a powerful command line tool for downloading YouTube content. It lets you do things like download playlists and annotations. It's worth reading the documentation. uBlock Origin is an ad blocker. Calibre is an ebook manager, great for converting. Flux is a screen color adjuster. VLC is the ultimate video player. Visual Studio is for coding. Atom is also for coding. Unity is a video game engine. Zotero is a reference manager. TeamViewer offers easy screen sharing setup. I use it to help my mom with her computer all the time. Blender is for 3D modeling. Open Broadcaster software is for live streaming and screen recording. Malwarebytes works for protection against malware. RetroPie is pretty amazing too. Mac only. Clippy is a clipboard and snippet manager. I prefer it to paid apps like Text Expander because I don't want to memorize shortcuts. Keeping You Awake is a newer, more up-to-date clone of Caffeine for older Macs. It keeps your Mac from sleeping with a neat icon in the menu bar. MIDI Monitor monitors MIDI input and output. SysX Librarian is for backing up synth programs or sending new SysX data. QuickTime offers screen recording in the file menu. Keycaster is a keystroke visualizer. App Cleaner lets you drag in unwanted applications and removes all the junk or hidden files that you'd otherwise miss. I'd recommend using the uninstaller over this if available. Other really useful apps for Mac are listed on Awesome Mac. Recommended paid apps include Istat Menus, as the stock menu bar just doesn't cut it, and Duplicate Detective, which is hands down the best and only duplicate finder you'll need. Story 16. Check out Audio Router. It's a great piece of freeware that lets me route sounds through different sets of speakers, so I can watch a stream on my TV and play a game on my main monitor. I'm glad I helped so many people out. You have to reload the page after you route the sound, except for YouTube, which routes without interruption. I found it when I was looking for 2 desktop-in-one computer programs. I started with Che Volume as one Reddit user suggested, but I had issues with it. Story 17. Paint.net. It's like Adobe Photoshop merged with Microsoft Paint to create the perfect combination. I used to be heavily involved in graphic design using Photoshop, but it became too expensive to maintain. I tried using GIMP for years, but it always felt too clumsy. Paint.net hits the sweet spot. Story 18. Plex for movies. Freaking ridiculous that it is free. Automatically downloads all the metadata for a movie like thumbnail, and even has Rotten Tomato scores on it. Has voice application programming interface so you can actually search by voice. Remembers and marks episodes or movies as watched. Brings up new movies that you recently added to your library to the forefront. Story 19. It's actually free in all senses of the word. If you want to argue that it's a website and not software, well, it's software too. You can download the Wikimedia software, set it up with no hassle, download all of Wikipedia, and set it up in your instance of Wikimedia. So now you have your very own Wikipedia, with blackjack and entertainment if you want. Story 20. Fusion 360. Full parametric 3D CAD with toolpath controls for computer numerical control and a slicer for 3D printing or prototyping and load stress calculation. I could go on. Story 21. Disk Fan. Visually see how much space is being used on a volume. Beyond compare. Compare 2 files or directories, whole trees and directories. This trial software, but it's exactly what I've needed so often. VNC server/viewer. It's quite old, and there are probably better replacements available. It's a security hazard if not used properly, but it's utterly changed the way remote support gets done and is available for Windows and Linux. Ubuntu, an entire operating system. Linux generally, but Ubuntu springs to mind immediately as amazingly easy to install and insanely useful. Story 22. Prot is quite a cool program for people who want to analyze speech or perhaps other sounds. I have used it for phonetics and I still use it regularly. It's easy to use too. I doubt many people would care about this though. I did not think this would actually be useful for a lot of people. I just thought it was used in the phonetic field. That's quite cool to hear. Thanks for the kind messages, everyone. Story 23. I know you mean free as in price, but here are some free, as in open source software I love that are also free of cost. Darktable photo workflow similar to Lightroom. Very powerful, and there are a solid number of plugins for it. GIMP, open source image editor. A bit clunky at first, but insanely powerful. Krita, open source art program similar to Paint Toolsci or CorelDRAW. I've used it a fair bit for cleaning comic scans. LibreOffice Office Suite without the license fees. Version 6 is out now with some significant bug fixes and performance improvements. MPD/Moppity, open source music player daemon. It's a bit complicated at first glance, but a very capable music player when you have everything configured. I've set it up to stream to an IceCast output before for some internet radio fun. 7-zip, you really have no excuse for not using it. It's great. It's open source. Love it. Story 24. Unity has a lot of documentation and has significantly sparked independent game development, to my knowledge. It allows beginners to create projects with literally no price tag. Story 25. Mika Mika Dance is an amazing 3D animation software that lets you learn the basics of moving models realistically. You don't have to model or rig anything. From download, you just click load model and pick one. Then you start animating. The examples below all have an anime style for the character, but that's not the only kind of look or models available. It can produce some really impressive work, so not everything looks like trash just because it's free. I introduced it to my communication technology teacher back in high school, and it's now a part of the class every semester. A lot of the videos you'll find will be music related, but there are stories, fight choreography, and such too. The next few examples are a little more advanced and impressive looking. Martial arts versus brute strength. Two equally skilled fighters. Animation of guitar playing with magical elements. Watch this one if any. You won't regret it. A Two Cellos remake animation of The Trooper by Iron Maiden played with classical instruments. If you watch any of these at all, I'd suggest watching the magical guitar playing one. The amazing part is that all of the movements like the drumming, fingerpicking, hammer-ons, and the shifting of the weight of the guitar are all accurate to the song. Everything in the video was perfect, and it felt like something I'd remember for the rest of my life. Headphones required. A 3D animation program that's easy to use and beautiful when taken full advantage of. Share it around if you know anyone who wants to be a storyteller. Story 26. Duolingo. For a free language learning app, it is extremely clean, user-friendly, and engaging. It makes learning a language fun and interactive. When compared to expensive software and other apps like Rosetta Stone, it is very comparable, if not even better, in some aspects. Story 27. Ear FanView. I was introduced to it when I started as a photo lab technician. It is great for batch sizing, basic edits like color and contrast, batch cropping and rotating, and it reads most image file types I would come across, excluding RAW files. I would give it a 10 out of 10 and recommend it. I put it on every computer I own. It made my job so much faster and made me seem like a ninja to customers. Story 28. Space Engine. Every time I show it to someone, they freak out about how cool it is. I've been planning to buy a projector for a while, only for the purpose of getting stoned and projecting Space Engine on my ceiling so I can lie with my girl and look at the stars. Story 29. Reaper is my go-to audio workstation. It's technically $60 per version, but its fully functioning demo version lasts forever. Load it with some Virtual Studio Technology instruments and plug-in, and you can start making music. Open Broadcaster software is really good for screen captures. Lightworks demo is fully serviceable if you're making YouTube videos, but after a few issues, I moved over to Shotcut for video editing. Finally, For what it does as 3D computer-aided design and computer-aided manufacturing software, Fusion 360 is free for hobbyists. Edit. Cleared up some points. Story 30. ImageMagick is an absolutely phenomenal scriptable command line image editing suite. Need to trim transparent pixels from the edge of thousands of images and then resize to thumbnails? Bam! Done in seconds. Even after creating a Photoshop macro, this can easily take half an hour of computer time, and I have seen colleagues do this sort of work manually over the course of an entire mind-numbing day. Even more obscure, but just as wonderful, is Socks. It's basically ImageMagick for audio files. Being able to normalize audio levels, trim dead lead-ins and lead-outs, and save in a web-friendly compressed format with a single script has saved me dozens of hours. It's a shame so many people are unaware of these things or intimidated by the command line. There are so many powerful force-multiplying software suites like these out there. Story 31. 4K Video Downloader. It's a completely free YouTube and other audio-video downloader that doesn't have any misleading download buttons. It can perform parallel downloads and can download in MP3 and M4A formats. Story 32. How has nobody said TeamViewer yet? It is a fantastic remote desktop utility used by most major IT people I know. There is an enterprise version that you have to pay for business use, but for anyone using it outside of a business context, it's free. The mobile app is incredibly intuitive, and I can access my home desktop from anywhere, which is great when I need to troubleshoot or manage my media library through Plex but don't feel like getting off the couch.